didn't rip them open, but they bled. And we did lots of other things as well, which was very interesting. What they did to sort of test us all was now I think about it, was great, because it gave everybody a chance to be studied. And a lot of, sometimes we were given a question and everybody wanted to answer. And I used to stand back a bit. And then I'd come in at the end and give me my answer. I'd think about it more. Anyway, when it was all over and we were lined up outside of the War Office Selection Board to go in for the final interview, I was called in first. I thought, oh God, I've failed. And they said, welcome, you've passed. So you broke the record for the
obstacle course, did you?
Obstacle course. Well, that stood out, didn't it?
Yes.
But other things stood out as well, because I wasn't in a rush to give them answers. When they said, this is the situation, what do you think? Everybody wanted to get in first to give their answer. I used to stand back a bit and then come in at the end.
That's important, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So I passed that, and then from there I went to Eton Hall, which is where the young officers were now being trained. Yeah. And I went to Eton Hall. And that's where the W.D. Iron Williams came in, because by then he had left the school.
Yes.
And he had a parish near to Eton Hall, which is where I was training to be the officer. And he became important in my life then.
Right, so you went through the officer school, and then was the Second World War still on by the time you got?
Oh well, no. Well, it was. Yes, it was. See, I would have been about 17 there, so it's getting on towards. It's 1947.
Yes.
So it's getting on towards the end of the war. Right. It was towards the end of the war, because once I passed out of Eton Hall when I was an officer, I was sent out to Austria to be part of the West Yorkshire Regiment, who were in Austria at the time as part of one of the four powers that were looking after the Germany or Austria. So that's when that happened. So my life changed dramatically from starting at Cotham, when I got that unqualified passage.
Well, you were very lucky to be selected to go to school there, weren't you?
To go to that school, yes.
You probably were all quite lucky for that.
Well, I think one of the reasons might have been that one of my brothers, when I was first at the school in Grangetown, went out to the school, and I think he's spoken to the school and see if they could do anything for me. And I think that's when they decided to make me one of the 6. So I always owed him that.
So you went to Austria, and then.
Oh, we're going. I went when I passed out.
And you passed out when you were qualified officer.
I was an officer. I was posted to Austria, in the country, and we were out there just to sort of denazify the Austrians. I did my share with the girls.
Yes. Very good.
But then we moved to Vienna to be. So once for 1 month every 4 months, you were in charge of the whole thing. So in Vienna, when you were orderly officer, you had the whole of Vienna to be responsible for.
Right.
No, there's no. Austria was broken up into four sectors. Vienna was so big, it was inside the Russian sector,
Okay.
but it had, in Vienna itself had four, no, Vienna had four sectors. The rest of Austria had four big areas.
Okay.
So the Russians surrounded Vienna, but they didn't have control of Vienna. They only had control once every 4 weeks, every 4 months.
Okay.
So I spent quite a long time as a young officer in Vienna, and that was very interesting and worth talking about later, perhaps.
So how long were you in the army for then?
Well, I was only in the army for just over 18 months.
Oh, is that all?
Yes,
Oh, right.
because I was conscripted, and the conscription said I was due for demobilizing.
What does that mean?
If you're mobilised, you're ready for action. If you're demobilised,
Okay.
you're taken away from the action.
So you were trained 18 months. And
I was demobilised, and I was the last group to be demobilised. Anybody after me was sent to South Korea. There's a battle going on there.
I can't believe the luck.
I just missed going to South Korea,
Yeah.
and I wasn't sorry about that.
Why were you demobilised? I don't understand. I mean, you're only young. I mean, you said you were 17, so you're not even 20.
Well, no, that's right. I was only about, I was only in the army for
18 months, you said?
18 months virtually, and I was commissioned in that time,
Yes.
and I was sent out to
To Austria.
Austria,
And then you were...
and then
demobilised.
when I'd finished in Austria, I was demobilised,
Oh, not lucky.
and the people behind me were sent out to South Korea,
Korea. Oh, you're very
and
lucky.
many of them were killed or
Yeah,
wounded.
Yeah, that's terrible. Well, it's a long time ago. Well, let's fast forward a little bit. So, when did you meet Heather? How old were you when you met Heather?
I met Heather. I played rugby for Redcar when I was at school,
Yes.
and when I came out of school, I played rugby for Redcar.
What position were you?
I started off in the scrum, but then I got better. I got myself out of the scrum and put myself in at fly half, which is a very good position.
Halfback.
Halfback, very, very good position. And I wasn't fast, but I was quick, nimble. And Heather's brother was in the same team.
Right.
And that's when I met Heather. Heather lived with her parents.
Heather Dorman, that's right.
Heather Dorman, yeah, from Dorman and Long.
Okay.
Same name, same family.
What's Dorman and Long? I don't know.
Dorman and Long they built the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Oh, okay.
They provided all the steel for Sydney Harbour Bridge. A very big company. But her father was the Dorman, but he wasn't. He'd been in the Second World War. But I met Heather.
And how old were you?
Oh well,
About.
I suppose let's see. I'm out of the army. I think we were married when I was about 27 or something like that.
Okay.
But I fell in love with her. She was something that I didn't see in Grangetown. And I married her. And we lived together for quite a long time.
No, you must have been young. Well, no, that's right. So 27. So you were born in 1930. So you're about 27. So it was 1957-ish when you got married.
Yes.
Yeah. And when was Peter born? Do you remember?
Well, he would have been born about 57, 58.
58. So quite soon after you were married.
Yes.
Yeah, Peter came along.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I had 2 sons, Peter and Christopher.
Yes.
Peter and Christopher, was it? Yeah. And then 1 son later, which is David. He came much later.
I've seen some footage of you in Mallorca And it looked like David was possibly 4 or 5 years.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
The other two boys were a little bit older.
Yes,
So you did a lot of travelling when you were.
Well, I was by that time I was working. I got when I came out of the army. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I always did something. I didn't do nothing. Because I played tennis a lot, and the people that had a farm near the tennis courts, they gave me lots of work to do, farm work.
To keep you busy.
But then I got a job with Marks and Spencer's, right?
Department store.
Department store, yes. I went down to London and I was interviewed by them and I was given a job, and I started working there at Marks and Spencer's, and I was with them for a few years. I wasn't happy with it because they moved people around rapidly. You never knew where you were going to be next. Now that you're married, you don't like that so much.
Yes.
And I decided to leave them if I could. And there was a store. I was in Newcastle, and a store there called Fenwick's. Have you heard of Fenwick's?
Only because of you.
Fenwick's. Well, that was a big store, big department store, and I was very impressed with it. And I applied for a job with them to do training, and I went to see them, and they interviewed me, and various members of the Fenwick family interviewed me, and they offered me a job, not a training job, but they wanted somebody to run this department, which was a big department for them, called China. No, it was called, household. It sold household goods. They'd had somebody running it for a while, and they'd left, and they hadn't anybody that knew anything about it, and so they offered it to me. I said, yeah, I don't really know much about it. He said, well, I'm sure you'll learn fast. And so I was given this department, which was big, disorganized, and that was the start of my life trading. I became very good at it. I could think about it and think clearly through how we were going to fix it. These didn't bother me. And we became very successful. And then they gave me another department. The other department they gave me was a China and glass department. And they had taken over 25 years before a company in Newcastle called Townsend Galleries. It's a nice name. They'd taken it over, and they took over the buyer as well. So for the last 25 years before, they had this buyer who had total control of it. And they asked me, you can do that. I don't know anything about it. She said, no, you can do it. So she didn't like me because she had everything secret herself. She didn't tell anybody anything about what was going on in there. I had to find out for myself. So I did one thing. We'd just taken stock, and I got the previous stock take, which was a year before, and I got all the deliveries in that year, put them all together.
Big job. Without a computer.
Because she wouldn't do any business with any other company if they had another shop in Newcastle.
Yeah. And she wanted exclusivity.
Yeah, so she was exclusive, but she was exclusive, excluding the best. That's what I found. Anyway, from doing this simple, quite task,
yeah,
I discovered that one of the best sellers was tea sets. And if they were under a certain price, they sold even better. So I thought, that's good. I'm on a start now.
Get some tea sets.
And that's when I started doing the china and glass. And when I finished, that's when I met Jenny. I offered Jenny a job. Because what happened was, I was with Fenwick's in Newcastle, and then they promoted me to be the store manager of Fenwick's in Leicester. So I was moved from there to Leicester, and I was tour manager of the whole lot.